I remember back during the early OOs and throughout the whole entire OOs, Charles Barkley, he was starting off his career inside the NBA and just becoming this big time broadcaster or whatever you would call his position. But one thing that always stood out to me is during the playoffs when he would start getting upset at jump shooting teams. And there are two teams I remember he used to go after during the early 2000s a lot. One was the Boston Celtics with Paul Pierce and Antoine Walker. And the other team was the Dirk Nowitzki Mavericks with Michael Finley and Steve Nash. And I remember Charles always saying something like this, like, "Well, Ernie, these teams can't win. They're jump shooting teams." Granted, this is not really a great imitation of Charles, but I remember Charles would always hate on these teams like the Celtics and the Mavericks. It would drive him crazy because he would always say that they cannot consistently hit threes at that rate to win a championship because there are just some series where your three-point shooting is going to dry up. And if it's not falling, then you got to turn to something else. And the three-point shot is hard to be consistently great at. And I believed him back then. Obviously, I still believe him now, but I think it's more evident now that it's very difficult to win a championship being just a strictly reliant team on three-point shooting. The Warriors are the only team to do it consistently recently in NBA history. Prior to them, no one could do that. And there's a reason for it because it's just that difficult. The Warriors had all-time great three-point shooters in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Guys, you can make an argument are like the greatest shooters of all time, just or at least in your top five. It's very rare you're ever going to see a team like that ever assembled again that's going to have just the GOAT shooters, two of them playing together at the same time. And even Kevin Durant, when they added him, he was up there too. So it's not likely to ever happen again, but you still have teams copying their style of play to their detriment. I definitely feel that. And you see it throughout the playoffs that it's hurting a lot of teams. Just last night, for example, the Boston Celtics, they shot just a putrid three-point percentage. They shot 9 for 42 from the field for an overall percentage of 21%. That's terrible. You can't win a game when you shoot that poorly. That's just piss poor. And they took too many shots. They took 42 three-point attempts and they only made 9. Imagine if they took 10 or 15 mid-range jump shots. I'm sure they wouldn't make all of them, but still they would make a good amount better than that horrible percentage. I'm confident they could shoot above 30%. And this has been the trend throughout the whole entire playoffs I've observed. His team's taking 53-point shots, and they're only making like 5 of them. Literally, I've seen games where teams shoot 5 for 50 and they end up losing the game. And it's not shocking, but I just shake my head in this regard because you could go to other options like the mid-range. If you hit several more mid-range jump shots, you're in the game. You have potential to win the game, but you just throw that away. So that's really a big issue here. I just wonder if teams are going to get smarter about this. I know we've heard these analytic geeks say 3 is greater than 2. Yeah, it's greater than 2 when you're shooting close to 40%. But if you can't shoot close to 40%, I think the 2 is still more valuable than the 3. You could hit several 2-point shots versus hitting only like 1 out of 7. Those 7 2-point shots are going to be greater as a whole compared to that 1 3-point shot you made out of the 7 attempts. So I just think it's really dumb logic, and I just feel that 3 greater than 2 logic really goes out of the window when you factor in most teams will never shoot as great as those Warrior championship teams did. You're probably never going to see that ever happen again in this lifetime, I feel. That was a fluky team. That was a once-in-a-lifetime deal, but you still have these idiotic teams trying to replicate it. It does piss me off because there's no strategy behind it. You saw the Celtics not having any strategy of how to get easy buckets. It was just chuck, 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 chuck. And that's it. And that's been the case throughout the whole entire playoffs with a lot of these teams. I just hope some teams wisen up to this bullshit, as I call it. I'm going to just say it's bullshit and actually try to come up with better offensive games and ways to implement better plays to get easy buckets. Because that's the name of the game. You're trying to get the easiest shot available, and it's just not happening with a lot of these three-point shooting chuck fests that we're seeing right now. So I had to go on that rant. I just hate this three-point chucking, and that's all I have to say about it.